Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our flagship podcast here called Good Guy, Bad Guy Sports. I'm the Newcastle News sports editor, Ron Poniewasz, joined by Larry Kelly, a member of the Luxembourg Garbett Kelly and George law firm. And first off, we're going to tell you a few topics that we're going to get to this week. We're going to touch on the life and times of Bill Mazeroski and his recent passing, followed by Mike Wagner, another Pittsburgh sports hero, and we'll talk about him in another segment. And then we'll close it up with the Olympics, which just finished up recently. But first off, Larry, the passing of Bill Mazeroski. And I woke up early Saturday morning about 7:45, 8 a.m. to drive to Ohio. And that was what I was greeted with. I couldn't believe it. 89 years young. He passed away, and Bill Mazeroski played for the Pirates from 1956 to 1972, batted .260 with a total of 2,016 hits, 138 home runs, and 853 RBIs. And who could forget one of his biggest hits, a game-winning home run to end the 1960 World Series off Ralph Terry of the New York Yankees, and to win the World Series in 1960.
Well, I'll certainly never forget that because I'm 6 years old. I'm in second grade. Actually, I had just turned 7 at Lincoln and Garfield. And they were announcing the scores over the intercom system after every inning. And at the end of the ninth inning, that it was the top of the ninth, the Yankees scored 2 runs to tie the game. It's 9-9. School gets out at 3:30. I know that I can't get home to watch the game quick enough. So I raced out of the school and I ran up to my grandmother's house, who lived about a block away from the school. And my grandmother was a Pirate fan. She loved the gunner, Bob Prince. And I walk in her living room. Bill Maz is up. The first pitch from Ralph Terry was a ball. And the next one left the park. I saw it as a child. I'm 7 years old. And that's how I always knew the time was 3:36, because we got out of school at 3:30, and I darted up there and I saw it. But Bill Mazeroski is a legend. I played second base in Little League, and I wanted to be Bill Mazeroski, right? I mean, he was the man. And somebody had the temerity to say that he didn't belong in the Hall of Fame. Now, I could use a stronger word than temerity, but because it's a podcast and it's not R-rated, I'm going to stick with temerity. Bill Mazeroski was a 10-time All-Star, 2-time world champion, 8-time Gold Glove winner, and still holds the record for career double plays with over 1,700 for a second baseman. I believe he still holds the career record for second baseman for assists. Bill James, who is the guru of analytics in baseball, said he is by far, analytically and statistically, the greatest second baseman to ever play the position. And somebody had the nerve to say that he didn't belong in the Hall of Fame. Maybe more, what I remember more, even more than that home run, and I can still see it on my grandmother's black and white TV leaving the park, was his Hall of Fame speech. He was so humble, and he lasted about 2 or 3 minutes, and he was overcome with the emotion and started crying, if you remember it. I'm sure you've seen it. And now I'm a grown man. This was like in 2001. Yeah, it was in 2001. So I'm almost 50 years old. And when I see a tough guy start crying like that, well, I broke down too. I was crying watching it. Bill Mazeroski is the epitome of what not only a great baseball player looks like, but what an outstanding human being looks like. That's Bill Mazeroski, buddy.
I actually know who you're talking about as far as didn't want him in the Hall of Fame, unless there's multiple people, and there might be multiple people, but would I be right in saying Ted Williams?
Yes. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? The greatest retort to Ted Williams came from, and I can't remember who said it, but they said, "Hey, Ted, Bill Mazeroski doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. Well, let me let you in on a little secret, buddy. If you had to play against him, your batting average would have been 200 points less."
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that shut Ted Williams up. So, yeah, Billy Maz. I wanted to be him, Ronnie. I wanted to be him.
Right. Yeah. Well, a lot of people around Pittsburgh and around the world wanted to be him because he was a great fielder. And what you have to understand is, and a lot of people don't realize this, back in the '60s, middle of '50s, because he started in '56, you're playing on essentially playgrounds.
Yes.
The infield at Forbes Field was essentially your local playground.
Yeah, yeah. In Forbes Field was the worst of the playgrounds. Anybody that remembers the 1960 World Series remembers the wicked bad hop that hit Tony Kubek in the throat.
Yep.
I mean, playing on Forbes Field's infield was like playing down Big Run. I mean, in Newcastle, it was terrible.
Yep.
But Bill Mazeroski was, his 161 double plays in 1966, still 50, 60 years later, still remain the record for double plays turned by a second baseman. I mean, the man has records that have lasted 50, 60 years after his retirement. So he was special. He belongs. He's a Hall of Famer, both as a player and as a human being.
Is Bill Mazeroski the baseball equivalent of when people complain that Joe Namath is in the Hall of Fame and people say that Joe Namath should not belong in the Hall of Fame, but they don't realize that what Joe Namath did for the game of football and the merger and things like that? Is Bill Mazeroski the baseball equivalent?
I won't say he's the baseball equivalent because Joe Namath was offensively a giant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was the first quarterback in the history of the game to throw for over 4,000 yards, and he did it in a 14-game season. The rap on Bill Mazeroski was that his offensive statistics were average. They were pedestrian, and they were. The difference was the greatest second baseman of all time. And that's what probably led to Ozzie Smith being a Hall of Famer later on. Billy Maz was, when you're the greatest of all time at your position, you're probably a Hall of Famer.
Right. Yeah, and I also heard somebody say that the runs that Bill Mazeroski stopped, he probably kept about another 100 or better runs off the scoreboard every year. That's how good his defense was.
Yeah, he has so many defensive statistics that are still, if not the best in the history of Major League Baseball. They're in the top three. The number of chances, his fielding percentage, the number of assists that he had, the number of double plays he turned. He was the gold standard for what second base is supposed to look like.
Right.
He's a Hall of Famer, Ronnie. Don't ever let anybody tell you he wasn't. But again, as great as he was as a baseball player, he was probably a better man. Anybody that was interviewed spoke about his humility and his willingness to spend time with young players to teach them the game, and never talked about himself. You know what I mean? Let us play do the talking. Bill Mazeroski, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer, buddy.
Kind of like Tony Dorsett's 99-yard touchdown run on Monday Night Football, the longest run. That can only be equaled for football. Something like that. Well, Bill Mazeroski's home run to win the 1960 World Series, you can only tie that. You can only equal it. And not even Joe Carter's home run is on the same level. Why? Because Joe Carter's walk-off home run was in Game 6 to end that one. That's not Game 7. That's Game
No, it wasn't Game 7 in a tie game. In the bottom of the ninth inning, no less. Right? Yeah, Joe. I remember that one too. I was watching it. I remember it, and he hit it. He was playing for Toronto at the time, but no, Game 6, they had a lead in that series. A little bit different. Still big, but a little bit different.
Yep. Yeah, and you can also compare it to the Red Sox meltdown against the Mets at Shea Stadium in the World Series. That was Game 6.
That was game 6.
Yeah, they go home that night thinking, hey, 27 outs, we can still win the World Series. Nothing hurt. Now it was hurt the next night, but nothing hurt.
Yeah, but people who watched that game remember the pitcher throws a wild pitch.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple other plays that it wasn't just all Bill Buckner. Trust me, it wasn't. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. So Bill Mazeroski will be missed. He's been gone for just a few days, and he's already missed incredibly by Pirates Nation. Certainly, and that's the third one that's gone in about a week and a half or so. Dave Justy, Elroy Face, and Bill Mazeroski.
I went to college with Dave Justy's nephew, Larry Justy. He was the quarterback on the football team at Slippery Rock, and we were good friends. And we used to go to games because his uncle would get us the tickets. And this is back in the heyday of the Buccos. We're talking 74, 75, when Pittsburgh baseball meant something. And so we used to be able to go to games because Dave Justy used to get his nephew tickets, Larry, and we used to drive up from Slippery Rock to go to the games.
Yeah, and that's it's a shame too, losing those 3 players. It's one thing when you have a guy from an era, maybe the 50s, and another guy from the 70s, maybe the We Are Family era, and then maybe another guy passes away from the era of Bonds, Bonilla, Van Slyke, Drabek, Don, Slot, those guys. But this is 3 guys all in the same era from that one era of that championship team.
Yeah, Pittsburgh was the city of champions in the 70s. It just was. What a great time to grow up as a young kid.
Yeah.
Back in the days when the games were on the radio, and the Pirates were playing on the West Coast, and you'd go to bed literally with the radio on your ear, and you'd probably fall asleep before the game was over. You couldn't go to the ESPN app to find out what the score is. So you'd wake up in the morning, and the first thing you would do is turn on the radio, and you couldn't wait. What did the Pirates do last night? What did the Buccos do? Did they win that game? And the Newcastle News was an afternoon paper, so you weren't going to get that score until the afternoon unless you heard it on the radio. It was a great time to grow up, buddy. It was. We all know there's an advantage to being the home team, to playing at home. And at LGKG, we have been your home team for over 90 years.
We're more than just a law firm. We're your friends, your neighbors, an advocate when life takes an unexpected turn.
We're not just lawyers that practice law. We live in this community, just like you.
When you need us most, we're at our best.
And nowadays people say, what did the Pirates do last night? The answer is they lost.
Or they don't care. Nobody's asking that question anymore. Maybe it changes this year. I don't know. But we lost Mike Wagner too. Mike Wagner was one of my favorite Steelers because he was such a cerebral player. When you play safety, and my football career was really short, but I was a safety. You got to be smart back there. You can't get suckered. You got to be able to read the play. You got to be able to read the quarterback's eyes. And nobody was better at that than Mike Wagner. And I think we talked about this last week. The play that stands out in my mind, it was in Super Bowl 10. Dallas takes the lead in that game because the Steelers defense gets suckered and they hit Drew Pearson on a crossing pattern for a touchdown. Now, it's in the fourth quarter, and they run the same play again. But you weren't going to fool Mike Wagner twice. And he intercepted it and set up the Steelers for a touchdown and turned the game around. But Mike Wagner, he wasn't part of the Steel Curtain, which was that front four, but he was a major reason the Steelers won 4 Super Bowls in the 70s, buddy.
Yeah. Mike Wagner passed away on February 18th, the former Pittsburgh Steelers defensive back. Mike Wagner played for the Steelers from 1971 through 1980, won 4 Super Bowls with the Steelers. Super Bowls 9 and 10. 9 was against the Minnesota Vikings. Number 10 was against the Dallas Cowboys. 13 was against the Dallas Cowboys. And Super Bowl 14, the last of that era, came against the Los Angeles Rams at the Rose Bowl.
Had 36 interceptions in his career.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing about Mike Wagner that people don't know, not only was he a great football player and in the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor, but after his career was over, he got an MBA from the University of Pittsburgh, was a very successful businessman after his football career was over. You know, Mike Wagner, really smart. You know, I like smart. When I coach, you know, I want smart guys out there. I want guys that are laser focused, mentally tough, and are smart. I don't want a guy out there that kind of loses his focus. Sooner or later, that's going to beat you. And Mike Wagner was one of those guys. I'm not so sure he ever lost his focus.
Yeah, and the one area that I thought you were going with that is he gave back to the game of football. He actually was an assistant coach for Pine Richland High School, coaching the defensive backs.
Wow, how about that? How about if you have Mike Wagner coaching you up?
Right.
Yeah, I did not know that, but he just was he was an All-Pro, first team All-Pro in '73. Again, an All-Pro in '76. He was the co-leader in interceptions in '73. He was part of Pittsburgh Steelers' 50th anniversary team. He's in the Hall of Honor. He's in the Pittsburgh Pro Football Hall of Fame. Mike Wagner, again, not a big guy. He was about 6'1", 210, according to what it says here. Didn't come from a big school. If I'm not mistaken, he played at Western Illinois, right? Mm-hmm. Never to be confused with Notre Dame. But tough, smart, cerebral, Chuck Noll type of player, and had 4 Super Bowl rings. Drafted in the 11th round, right? How many? They don't even have 11 rounds anymore, right? There's only 7 now. Mm-hmm. How many players that were drafted in the 11th round make their team's Hall of Honor? Not many, but Mike Wagner was one of those.
Yeah, at that rate, you know, you're just filling out your roster to have training camp bodies and things like that. And if you happen to stick around and make the team, you know, that's a big, even bigger bonus for the franchise. Yes.
He has the Pittsburgh Steelers record still for most interceptions in the playoffs with 5. He was a player, very cerebral player. And, you know, I like to believe you win with those guys.
Yeah. Absolutely. Bill Mazeroski and Mike Wagner gone too soon. Of course, Bill Mazeroski was going on 90, but still, you know, you just don't want to hear about stuff like that for anybody. And Mike Wagner also gone, I believe, at age 76. So rest in peace to Bill Mazeroski and Mike Wagner. We're going to take a break and wrap this up with our wrap up of the Olympics, which just concluded last week. So don't go away.
We all know there's an advantage to being the home team, to playing at home. And at LGKG, we have been your home team for over 90 years.
We're more than just a law firm. We're your friends, your neighbors, an advocate when life takes an unexpected turn.
We're not just lawyers that practice law. We live in this community, just like you.
When you need us most, we're at our best.
Here we're back with you here to close up shop here on Good Guy, Bad Guy Sports. And the Olympics just ended a couple days ago over in Italy. And Larry Kelly, first off, are you an Olympics fan? Do you watch the Olympics much?
No. I watched the hockey, though. I watched the team sports. Obviously, I watched USA basketball win the gold last summer. I was on the edge of my seat. And I was on the edge of my seat watching the hockey team, but I can't get too excited about figure skating. Honestly, I just don't know enough. I don't know what I'm watching. I mean, I root for the Americans, but I don't know if you're a good skater or a bad skater unless you fall down. So I didn't watch much of the Olympics, but I was watching that hockey game Sunday morning. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I'm not much into the Olympics. I watch Olympic basketball, Olympic golf, and Olympic hockey, pretty much probably what you watch as well. And I watch an extension of the Olympics in the World Baseball Classic, because that used to be in the Olympics. They used to have baseball, but now it's World Baseball Classic, and that's coming up.
That's starting next week, I think.
Yeah, pretty soon. It's getting here, and Paul Skeens will be pitching for
the USA. Absolutely.
Let's hope he doesn't have a Sidney Crosby ordeal where he gets hurt.
Yeah, let's hope. Right, let's hope.
The Olympic hockey, Larry, 3-on-3. You for it or against it?
No, I like it. I like it. I do. I like it. It's exciting, and I like it. I do. Because what I find is when you're playing 5-on-5, the teams aren't necessarily playing to win. They're playing not to lose. And as a result, you could go 3 overtimes. It's normally not a great play that determines the winner when it's 5-on-5. It's a lucky shot, or it's a tip puck or something that makes the difference. But I like 3-on-3. But here's what I'll say. When you win a championship, there's always one play or one call that if it goes the other way, you don't win. And, when it was going into overtime, I told my wife, who was watching the hockey match with me, I said, Marisa, we're going to win this. Well, why do you say that? Too many things have happened here in the USA's favor. It's their turn. And the 2 plays that I'm thinking of were the save that Connor Hellebuyck made when the puck was behind him, and he kicked it out with the paddle of his stick to the side, and the play when the net was wide open, and the Canadian player, I can't remember who it was, missed the net. He just absolutely missed it and hit it off the side of the net. And when stuff like that happens, Ronnie, it's your turn. Again, when we won the state championship against Abington in the Western Final in Carlisle, when we're playing, you were probably there. Were you there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The last shot of the game that's taken by Abington slides across the front of the rim. It was a 3-pointer, and I mean, it slid right across. If that shot goes in, the game goes to overtime, and only God knows if we would have won. And in the last minute of the game, do you remember the block charge call?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember when Malik Hooker stepped in and took the charge?
Mm-hmm.
If that call goes the other way, Ronnie, that's a tie game.
Yeah.
We probably get beat. So USA hockey, again, the save that Hellebuyck makes is a miracle. The puck's behind him. He swings his stick back and knocks it away. And the guy from Canada missing the wide open net in the last, 2 minutes of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It was our turn. It was our turn. It just was.
And another aspect, a third aspect would be when the United States killed off a 5-on-3 penalty in the second period.
How about that?
Yeah.
And you have the best players in the world out there, McKinnon and McDavid and those guys. And Connor Hellebuyck stood tall. He was the difference in the game. They outshot us, I think, 42-28. And as one of the commentators said, if it wasn't for Hellebuyck, that score's 4-5-1 in the third period. Mm-hmm. I mean, he made 3-4 unbelievable, miraculous saves that kept the United States in that game.
You like 3-on-3. I do not like 3-on-3, and I have a column that will run in the Wednesday edition.
Well, tell me why. Tell me why you don't like 3-on-3.
I feel as any fan that I'm very unfulfilled by the overtime. You had 3 great periods, 5-on-5. You got 4 less skaters on the ice. Let it play out naturally. It's the equivalent of Major League Baseball saying after 9 innings, we got to put a runner at second. I don't want to be here all night. It's like high school softball saying right after the 7th inning, got to put a runner at second. Why? What's your hurry? Do you have somewhere to be? Because if you do, go ahead. For you. I just do not like it. It's unnatural. Let them play the way they played for 3 periods and let them go ahead and do it. And I'll even take one of your phrases, Larry. If I was the czar of the world, I'd get on the phone and I would tell both teams, go back to Italy. The United States is going to put their golds on the line. We're going to go right back to the arena. We're going to play 5-on-5 hockey. Let the best country win. And if we don't win, hey, then we lost playing the way we should play, 5-on-5.
Well, there are some people that feel that way. There are, but the counter argument to that is they played 5-on-5 for 3 periods, and the Canadians couldn't beat them.
Right.
They couldn't beat them. And it was Nate McKinnon who missed the open net. It's about 10 minutes left. It was a wide open net, and he just missed it. There were 2 breakaways that they had that Connor Hellebuck made stops on. I mean, they had their chances. However, there are some people who are in your corner on this that believe that it should be 5-on-5 regardless of how long it takes. And again, my only kind of, I guess, argument against that is it takes too long, and teams don't play to win. They play not to lose. They play very conservatively in that situation. And as a result, it's normally a fluke goal that decides the game. Here, when you got 3-on-3, both teams they're being very, very aggressive. And you got to admit, the winning goal was a great play by the United States. It was just a great play from end to end. You know, that could have been a 2-on-0 had the puck not been poked away by the American player. And then, of course, the pass to Jack Hughes and the shot that beat the goalie. It was just a great game.
I could make an argument for if you really like 3-on-3, you know, I could see a concession made where you say, okay, first overtime, you're going to play 5-on-5 the way you did the first 3 periods. If it's still tied going into the second overtime, maybe 4-on-4, you know, and then if it's still tied after the second overtime, then you play 3-on-3. I could see if you could take it down levels, but I'm of the belief that I feel the same way in high school softball. I don't want gimmicks. Same with Major League Baseball. I don't want gimmicks. I don't want a runner at second base. Play it out. You know, you're really disrupting the game by doing.
Well, you're a traditionalist. I mean, you are one of the last of the Mohicans, especially for your age group, because normally people in your age group, you know, they want satisfaction now. They're not willing to wait for it. But you really got to hate the shootouts then that occur in the NHL after 3-on-3 for 5 minutes. You really got to hate that if you hate 3-on-3.
You know, for something like that, I would like one of 2 things to happen: either play a 10-minute overtime, or let a game just end in a tie. You know, it used to end in a tie when I was young years ago, and I could see the fact that, okay, you want to have a winner. You want to have a winner, and I understand that. But I would not want that for the Olympics. I would not want a shootout in the Olympics.
You know what they say about a tie, don't you? It's like kissing your sister.
Yeah. Well, I never had a brother or sister, so.
Well, you and I are the same there. I'm an only child also. My wife says they write books about guys like you and me. So, yeah, probably the tie that aggravated America most, and you're too young to remember this, Notre Dame, Michigan State, 1966. Notre Dame gets the ball back in a tie game with about a minute and a half to go, if I'm not mistaken, and they played for the tie.
Yeah.
They didn't try to win the game. And man, did Eric Parsegian take some heat for that. Now, that bothered me. You know, you got to play to win. You know, as Mike Tomlin used to say, don't live in your fears, you know. I lost the state championship game because I had a runner trying to steal second base in the last inning, but I was playing to win. You know what I mean? I wasn't playing. I was going to, the other team, if you make a play to beat me, I'll tip my hat, but I'm not going to sit back and let you dictate the action. Just not going to do it. Right. So.
Okay, well, that wraps us up for the Olympics and for Good Guy, Bad Guy this week. Next week, we will probably delve in a little bit to the NCAA men's basketball tournament, as so far, the Miami of Ohio basketball team, the men's basketball team, the Red Hawks, they are undefeated And there's some people saying they're going to make the tournament, and there's some others that are fretting that they might miss because they could lose a regular season game or a conference tournament game. But we'll talk about that next week. Larry, anything else you want to talk about?
No, listen, you know what? You were a pretty good boy today, which is unusual for you. You weren't very controversial. You didn't take up many positions that were generally and normally absurd. Right, you're maybe just hanging around me a little bit longer, and we could actually call this good guy sports.
No, I don't think that'll work, Pops.
All right, my brother, I enjoyed it.
Thank you for watching us, everybody. And you know where to find us. We're on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on Spotify. I had it all written down. I just didn't grab it. But wherever you think we might be, we're probably there.
All right. And you got to look for what? Good Guy, Bad Guy Sports or Good Guy, Bad Guy Newcastle News? Let them know how to find it.
Yeah, that Good Guy, Bad Guy Sports on YouTube. It'll be there under Newcastle News. Same with our tip-off podcast as well. Like I say, wherever you think it is, that's where we are.
All right, bro. Sounds good, my man.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for watching us, everybody. We'll see you next week.